All right, welcome to episode 15 of DAO Talk. It's a big number. This is one stop shop for everything DAOs. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Frisson.
All right, let's get into it. We got a lot of DAO content this week, so we're going to run through this pretty quickly, give you an update on everything that's happening in the DAO space. Not a lot of deep philosophical discussions this week like previous weeks with some, drama when things were a little bit slower. But we got a lot of stuff going on this week. So let's start with something that's a little bit close to home. If you weren't listening last week, we had an integration with JokeDAO. Frisson decided to run this. And it's a way for you to get involved in DAO Talk. Frisson, break it down a little bit. Tell them what's happening. What stage is this at? And if they haven't been involved, obviously it's a little bit farther along now, but they can still maybe play a role.
Hell yeah. So we're trying to find our next guest for DAO Talk. We've mostly been interviewing relatively famous and super well-established people in the DAO space, but I know there's a lot of, amazing DAO builders out there who are just earlier on, newer to the space. Maybe they just don't spend a lot of time marketing themselves, but are doing really interesting work. And we want to talk to them and share their insights with you. So that's why we created a JokeDAO contest to find our next DAO Talk guest. The rules were you had to join a guild that we created, and then I would send you a token that allows you to submit in the JokeDAO contest and also vote in the JokeDAO contest. The token's called DAO Talk. It's going to $1. Just kidding. It's completely worthless. But it has utility, which is that it allows you to vote in this JokeDAO contest. And so we got some good submissions. I think we got 6 or 7 submissions. The submission period is now over, so it's voting time. And the action's already started. Who we got? Who's in first? Is it still Chiron? Hold up. Scroll back down. It's changing all the time. No, Cinematic. Ooh, Cinematic's getting mad votes. It is top 3. Cinematic looking good. Cool Horse Girls looking good. And then Han, my dude Han, I just met him. He's great though. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But jump in and cast your votes. Voting closes next week, and then the top 3 will come on DAO Talk. So it should be fun.
Yeah, by a few weeks from now, you might be right here co-hosting DAO Talk with us. So that is very exciting. We'll see how that plays out. We'll be tweeting about it from our personal accounts and from the Tally account. Looking forward to it. Exciting stuff. And this probably won't be the last contest we run. I would assume we're going to run some more if this goes well. And it's gone pretty well. We were either going to get botted out of existence or no one was going to do it. And neither of those happened. We had some good submissions, some good discussions, and we're excited to elevate some really interesting voices in the space. So moving right along, Coordinate, Frisson, drop the heat on what's happening here.
Yeah, Coordinate is a popular payment tooling or DAO contributor compensation tooling that was spun out of Yearn a little while ago. And it's gotten traction for a very specific use case, which is basically for contributors compensating each other, or it basically creates a compensation pool, and then all the contributors who work on a project or in a DAO can basically vote to allocate that funding relatively based on who contributed the most. But that's, and I think, it's been popular. Songcamp, which is a really cool music NFT project, uses it, I think 100% for a compensation. But a lot of DAOs more, it's just something they do on the side as one way to compensate contributors. So Coordinate's adding more payment tools to their stack. In addition to these gift circles, which is what I was just describing, they also are adding just regular streaming payments and UBI and stuff like that. So great to see more compensation tools coming. Looks like we've had a technical issue. So maybe we'll have to send a ticket into the Coordinate team to let them know. But they launched these new payment tools. It's great to see more tooling come to the compensation space. I think we need more tooling and just more thinking about how compensation should work in DAOs. We've actually got a really good Tally blog post coming down the pike. It might be a month or so out, from Gaia, who wrote a great blog post about impact DAOs for Tally in the past, kind of breaking down like all the reasons that you might compensate someone in a DAO and kind of how to think about those. So Tally will be engaged in that conversation as well.
I would like to formally apologize to Coordinate for doing that. That was not planned. But that's what happens when you get featured. Oh, another error. So we'll keep you posted on that. I'm sure it might be something on our end that's fucking up, but interesting stuff coming out of there. Have you ever used Coordinate before? Have you ever done this? Like when I was in Bankless DAO, we use this a lot. So
nice. Yeah, I personally haven't, but I need to do more cool stuff apparently, because Adrian from Tally said he used it for Song Camp.
Okay, moving right along. Cabin is what are they doing here? Kind of explain what's happening, because I'm still a little bit confused about what were the origins of this project. And I understand what's happening now, but where did this idea come from? If you have the context,
you mean Cabin DAO as a whole?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I wasn't there at the beginning. I think John Hillis is one of the co-creators, and he has a background, like a pretty long and successful background in Web 2. But yeah, I think the idea is really to create like spaces for creators to do their thing, and kind of like mutually supportive networks for those creators. And they put a heavy emphasis on these physical spaces. So they have these cabins in Texas. I think Adrian and Dennison have both gone to events at like Cabin DAO spaces where they kind of pull Adrian and Dennison, both from Tally. They kind of pull people together around a specific like topic or workshop, and create a space around that and kind of co-create together. So what they're doing here is kind of trying to productize their process. So they have now this expertise on basically having a group of people on the internet come together to purchase a physical space. And they're kind of trying to like create. They're basically saying, okay, this is something that's going to happen more, right? Internet squads are going to like purchase physical spaces. And so how can we at Cabin like share the knowledge that we have about how to do this, and then in doing so create some additional like value or like business model opportunities for Cabin DAO. So they will take you all the way through like their process for co-buying property basically with your internet squad, in exchange for like a small percentage of like equity in the project. So pretty cool. I think, I agree. We're going to see more and more of this like squad places, squad co-buying of IRL assets. And they've even partnered with like a technology platform to actually execute the transactions and like integrate it with tokens and stuff like that. So pretty dope. And I think one theme with this is like existing DAOs that have like traction, some things that they create with their community, spinning out products, or trying to productize kind of their expertise. I think we're going to see more of that because it just makes the DAO potentially more sustainable going forward.
Yeah, when we were prepping for this, we talked a little bit about like a lot of these startups or DAOs or companies starting to productize things. Why do you think that is? Is it just because like, there's no business model right now? Like a token is not a business model long term. Like, not to shit on it, but like it is like the natural life cycle of, I think, what is happening right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's black and white. So I think some DAOs can just be like social communities that are token gated, and that's okay. But I think for DAOs that are ambitious and want to continue to scale up their impact, grow their community, it's very beneficial if you can find kind of like if you can create tangible value for the world outside of your DAO, and then in some way try to like benefit from that, because it potentially brings in revenue. It pulls new people into your network, into your DAO. So I think for the more ambitious DAOs out there that want to like really stay around for the long term or grow, you're going to see this. So like, I think we're going to talk about this later. Maybe we can actually just jump straight into it. Nouns DAO is a great example of a DAO that is like, already achieved quite a bit of scale and has ambitions to make. I think their ambition is basically to make like the noun meme, ubiquitous globally. And you can see they're doing something similar here. So they've developed, a very effective governance system for their community. Basically, one noun equals one vote, and they auction a new one off every week. And so they've built this like, really cool governance portal that allows people to participate in governance. They've added this functionality called Prop House that basically issues smaller grants to people building stuff for nouns. And what they're doing is like incentivizing people to build basically more governance tooling for nouns DAO. And that like directly adds value to the DAO, but I think also opens up the opportunity for new products. And it's cool, man. Some of these ideas, we can read through some of them, maybe just the top 5. So the first one is basically like a delegation portal, which is really cool. So you can like decide who to delegate your votes to in nouns based on their profile and past history. The next one is, let's see, keep going. We're still going on the delegation portal. Next one is just like an overall massively improved governance front end client for nouns. So just adding a bunch of features and richness to it. And then the next one is, scroll up, list adjectives, which is basically just like governance analytics for nouns. So there's like several ideas here that I think, nouns is going to fund and people are going to build them for nouns, which is really cool. But I also think actually all of them are really good product ideas in general for DAO builders. And so I would not be surprised to see like maybe the teams that build this, scaling it out and productizing it for other DAO communities, or people seeing the teams building this and then building it for their community. This is a pretty strong list of product ideas for Tally as well. So there may be some things that we build here. We're a governance front end for nouns that some people use. And so may add some of these things on our end as well. So just similar view. It's kind of like these really ambitious DAOs, that have funding, but want to continue to figure out how to scale, will continue to, I think, create products that are useful for their communities and then try to scale them out to the world.
Yeah. For someone that's, thinking about the way nouns operates, they're funding these projects through like Prop House and their fucking massive treasury, right? What is is there any financial upside for them besides just like mind share? Are they taking equity when they're giving out these grants? Are they, having any upside here? Do you know?
The like nouns DAO as a whole?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't dug deep into this. I mean, I think what they're paying for in this case is like literally for people to build this for nouns. So I think the primary like immediate benefit is just that like nouns governance gets better, basically. But I do think like the DAO is definitely interested in opportunities to like spin stuff out, partner, create businesses, that benefit the DAO as well. So I would not be surprised to see that happen in the future.
Yeah, I'm just thinking long term, and based on what you just said about, this is a very public, I mean, their whole thing is CC0. So I know they've definitely thought about this, right? But if these are all like really good product ideas, like what's stopping, say Tally or any other independent builder that just wants to take that idea and build it themselves? I'm just thinking out loud, like what does that look like long term? And I think from that podcast we talked about a few weeks ago from, I think it's I Pledge Allegiance, where a bunch of the OG nouns were talking, or the people that run Nouns DAO. kind of just highlighting there's not a necessarily a concrete vision on what it looks like as a business model. It's an experiment, and it's an experiment with like $40 million in a treasury, which is pretty sweet. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out long term. Yeah, that's a really cool project. All right, moving on. Maybe this will be the last week we talk about this, but probably not, because I feel like it's never ending. But the Tribe DAO, Fay Labs, all the different things combined into one situation, is still winding down. And there's a proposal this is from a Twitter user named Shadow, that has to do with DAO governance bribery. I tweeted about this last night, kind of thinking out loud about, is this a feature or a bug of Web3 in the DAO ecosystem as a whole, like the ability to bribe users to get proposals across? And so a friend responded and was talking about like DAO governance in and of itself, and DAO voting is an illusion in a way, because this is not the same as this proposal. But if, only a certain type of contributor can create a proposal, I'm thinking like Uniswap DAO, people who don't have enough voting power, who can't really create a proposal, they're getting told what choices to vote on. So they don't really have a choice in, saying, oh, if options A, B, and C are the only things I can vote on, but I actually believe D, there's this illusion of decentralization and this illusion of choice. And I think this is how I'm viewing this situation. This illusion of decentralization, if someone can come in and bribe votes, is it any different than, say, the current governance model of, like, say, the United States, or working for a corporation or whatever? I'm also assuming if you're listening to this, you kind of understand the background behind the Tribe DAO and Fay hack, and them refusing to pay back bad debt, or make whole the users that were affected by a hack that happened a few months ago. But this proposal is basically trying to get them to repay the bad debt in a way. Do you have any context to add there? I don't know if that was a good explanation of what's happening.
Yeah. So in general, there's a conflict. So Tribe DAO is winding down, which includes a bunch of projects, Fay, Rari, Fuse, and there is a fight over what to do with the assets that are left over as they wind down. And one of the big points of contention is, should we use funds to fully repay this big hack that happened on Rari last year? And at one point, the community had a snapshot vote that said yes. This was prior to Tribe winding down. This was several months ago. But snapshot votes are really just like a social poll. It's completely off-chain. Like, it doesn't really enforce anything. And later, there's an on-chain vote that kind of had the opposite outcome. And now the issue has come up again. And there is a proposal out there that I think is popular right now to just repay smaller holders. And this excludes some of the big DAOs that were actually partnered with Rari and lost a lot of funds in the hack, including Olympus DAO and Frax. They're like the two loudest, I'm assuming the two biggest, the kind of DAOs that were affected by this. And so basically Olympus is creating a proposal to fully repay the debt, including to the larger holders like Olympus and Frax. And they're trying to incentivize people to delegate to Olympus's voting address, delegate their tokens to Olympus so that Olympus can vote for this proposal. And then they're basically offering people a percentage of the funds that are paid out to Olympus as a result of fully repaying the debt for delegating to them. And this is like definitely, I mean, it's definitely vote bribing. Like just, I mean, literally they're like bribing people to vote their way. But, I mean, like we've talked about this, Vitalik has written about this, like in coin voting, I mean, it very much opens itself up to this technique. And, there will be other, governance approaches that people take over time that are more resistant to bribing, that Tally will support. But, right now, like this is very possible. This happened with the maker. I don't think there was bribing, but this kind of thing happened with the really contentious maker vote where people were just like undelegating, redelegating their votes to other people in real time going into the vote. People were borrowing funds to vote. So basically like having coin voting, like one token, one vote, especially with ERC20s where you can easily like borrow against them and stuff, it really encourages the financialization of voting. Whereas like with the US government, for example, right now, it's a little more difficult to vote bribe actually, because not only can no one see, like is voting private theoretically, you also can't prove to anyone else what you voted afterwards. So it makes it more difficult to bribe. Whereas like, yeah, not only are the tokens financialized in this case, but like the blockchain is public, and like basically Olympus is like, you prove to us that you supported this by delegating to us, and then you'll be able to see publicly that like we're promising to sort of publicly reward you for that afterwards. So like it's also the public nature of the blockchain very much enables this behavior. And so potentially not like the world's most, this approach to governance has some trade-offs, but I will say this, it's super interesting. And we're definitely like playing out a lot of these governance experiences in real time on the blockchain. Like this question of like a valuable asset is being liquidated on chain. Where do the funds go? And just having that be like totally up to coin voting is like kind of sweet. Like it's really cool to see this play out and learn from it. I'm also like really stoked to see people using Tally as infrastructure throughout this entire process of the tribe wind down on all sides. You can see really Olympus is like using Tally's delegation feature as like the default way for people to delegate to them. So super stoked to just like see Tally in the center of this whole conversation, and can't wait to keep following it and learning.
Yeah, I'm not approaching this in a way it's like, is it right or wrong? And I think you're not either. It's more of just a question of, is this the best way? And I don't think we're going to know for a while, and I don't think we need to know. But I think the questions need to be asked, like, because we were talking about this yesterday. I don't think many people are talking about, DAO bribing, because it's not super overt, and it's not like in your face as like a bad thing. Like no one's violently being held at gunpoint to, vote a certain way. They are benefiting in a way, but it just feels a little bit like, I don't know. I still am thinking and developing my own opinions on it. But a good conversation to be had nonetheless. And yes, Tally is at the center of it, which is awesome to see. Which is, we are, pretty neutral. We are the arena. I still called it yesterday. Tally is the arena for all of these showdowns to happen, which is interesting to see. And it gives us a good perspective because we're able to talk to both sides, see both sides operate. So yeah, we'll cover this moving forward, and we'll talk about it more moving forward. I'm sure there's going to be some type of, article that comes out on the Tally blog or newsletter about bribing, because I don't think this is going away anytime soon. I think the higher the stakes and the more things that happen, we're going to see more shit like this. So moving right along, we just talked about Maker a little bit. A really interesting thread, and I'll link this because I think there's no way we're going to cover a 38 tweet thread in DAO Talk, but it's a thread summarizing the latest Maker drama, how we went from onboarding a U.S. commercial bank that was happening, I think maybe a year ago, to discussing how to depeg a couple months, how we went from onboarding a U.S. commercial bank to discussing how to depeg from the U.S. dollar in less than 2 months. And it's a Pepe the Frog meme who's attached to like an oxygen mask to a tank that says drama on it. Frisson, I'm going to default to you here. What are the most important points from this, and what should we know about the maker drama?
So many threads. Everyone's a thread war these days. We should make a thread that's like all the best threads about DAOs this week, 1 through 69, and just somehow come up with 69 threads every week. I kind of hate myself for saying that, but actually I think that's kind of a good idea. Anyway, this thread is actually very useful. It's not just engagement farming. It's actually very similar to the newsletter that Monet Supply published during the most recent maker drama over the lending oversight core unit that we've talked about a couple times on the pod, where it's really about breaking down the politics behind MakerDAO. And Greg here, he breaks MakerDAO down into 3 political groups. There's the futurists, I think the moderates or something like that, and then the people who are like most obsessed with decentralization. And so basically the futurists are like the most aggressive about onboarding real world assets into the protocol. And the moderates are kind of like, we want to see DAI grow. So like, we'll do that where it makes sense. And then the decentralized people are like, we're going to talk to Amin Soleimani, or we interviewed Amin Soleimani. We're going to publish that as an interview soon. He's kind of like the archetypal decentralization focused person, where he just doesn't think there should be minimal to zero real world assets, and that DAI shouldn't be pegged, that they shouldn't force DAI to be pegged to $1. And so, Greg breaks down like kind of the major players in each camp. And basically what happened was, when Tornado Cash froze USDC, Rune, who is more on the like, Rune is one of the founders of MakerDAO. He has the most voting power. He holds the most MKR, etc. He switched from being more of like a futurist to moderate to the decentralization camp, in the sense that he, given the precedent set where USDC will just like freeze assets, on the basis of this Tornado Cash sanction, that they can't really afford the risk of heavily utilizing USDC to remain pegged to $1, and therefore there's not really a viable way for them to remain pegged to $1. But many of their growth initiatives, and many of the use cases around DAI really depend on it being tightly pegged to $1. So, it's a maker meltdown. Like honestly, like I think there are multiple really strong political groups within Maker right now, and like they do not agree, like genuinely. So it will be very interesting to see where DAI goes going forward. And just like, just watching this play out in a DAO is like incredibly interesting, and like I think a good learning experience for the whole community.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one for the history books of, hopefully we have history books in 10 years around, hot DAO contributor summer and the maker drama and everything that's happening. I'm not personally financially involved, or like I have no say in what's going on. So it's a little bit easier for me to, have a more of an unbiased opinion and just kind of watch from a bird's eye view and learn from it. But yeah, interesting stuff. We'll link that thread. Definitely something you want to read, because it is not just engagement farming. It is pretty good. I mean, the head tweet feels like engagement farming because it's funny, but definitely good tweet to read. All right. Moving right along, we have a really interesting article. I don't know. I've been like kind of obsessed with this article on this DAO this week. It kind of just hit me on like Monday, and I have gone down the rabbit hole. It's Super Benefit DAO, which is kind of just like a content DAO around, putting out really interesting thought pieces around the DAO space. And their bio is making better happen faster. So really interesting DAO. Article this week that I really liked was called Minimum Viable Permissionlessness, which just talks about, it's in the title, minimum viable permissionless that's a hard word to say. I'm not even going to say it again, but it's a series of articles from Super Benefit DAO, and they just attack a different area of DAO governance and community like functions each week. And this one just talks about permissionless networks and how DAOs are networks. They're not necessarily one place. They're a network of people and resources and connections. And in order for a DAO to function on a high level, the access to that network has to be permissionless, which means it has to be as little as friction as possible. If someone comes in and wants to contribute, there should be as little barrier to entry as possible, which is something you and I, Frisson, talk about a lot. And I think that's something we're doing with Content Guild, is just connecting people and Tally itself too, along with other integrations like, Guild, Joke DAO, things like that. It's, I think probably this is why I like this article so much, is because it gets to the core of the entire issue of onboarding, everyone into DAOs and into Web3, is how do we remove as much friction as possible? DAOs are not organizations, they're networks, like I said. And, it's a really interesting thought piece on how do we make those networks as permissionless and easily accessible as possible. So check them out for sure. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, if you had a chance to read it. I kind of threw that in last minute.
No, I love it. Tommy, going full think boy on permissionlessness. I dig it. I think this is, I remember after I joined Tally, but before I started, I went to ETH Denver and I met Dennison there, who's the CEO of Tally. And we were talking about DAOs and like talking about why we chose to work on Tally. And he was like, the use case he gave me was really along these lines. It was like, if you look at the world today, there is a very inefficient marketplace for talent. Like the talent that people have and could bring to the table relative to like how it's being utilized is inefficient, because there is so much like red tape and permissioned activity required to like get most jobs, just to be blunt. Even Tally, which is not permissionless and like not a DAO, at least not yet. We have, folks, like one of the things that has been really successful for us is like we have several folks like in Latin America, in Argentina, and the Dominican Republic who work at Tally, and like being in a lot of countries, like especially outside the US or even Europe, like it's really hard. Like you could be really talented at something, but there may not be like an applicable role in your jurisdiction. And so I think one of the big promises of DAOs is that it potentially has the potential to, create a much tighter marketplace and increase the liquidity in the exchange between like opportunity and talent. And so anyway, that's one thing that this kind of whole theme makes me think about.
Yeah, that's a great point. When I talk to like my normie friends and my parents about DAOs and why I'm so pumped about it, and just Web3 as a whole, is it's completely based on, what you're capable of and what your reputation is, and not necessarily where you're from, what you look like, what school you went to, what's your background. It's completely based on what can you provide, what can you contribute. And if you do that well, you will be rewarded. There's no inefficiency there. Like you said, there is an inefficiency in the current job market. And I think this has the potential, like you said, to, exploit that inefficiency, which is really exciting. And why I think we're all here is like, that's the core idea. And we can't forget that, especially like talking today about all the drama and all like the things that are going wrong. It's important to remember, this is why we're here. This is why it's so exciting. And this is the opportunity we have. The technology has allowed us to have this opportunity, and we can't squander it. Again, like something that I've talked about a lot too, is like blurring the lines between collaboration and competition. Yeah, we're a lot of us are competitors, like Tally has competitors, and we highlight a lot of our competitors on this podcast and on our Twitter. But like that competition is also collaboration, and on the whole, we're all, a rising tide, whatever, all boats. I don't know the exact quote, but it's riding that fine line between those two things. And I think just, remembering where we're at and what we're doing and the opportunity we have is super important. So, okay. We'll finish up with 2 more things. This one goes right into Content Guild. So we've talked about Content Guild a little bit today. So our Contributors Pass NFT artwork is out. This is the Contributors Pass NFT that will be going out to basically anyone that's been like a DAO Talk OG, someone that's been on the podcast, DAO NYC guests, people that have written for Tally, people that have written for Content Guild, contributors, not people, contributors. So if you want one, the best way to do that is to submit a proposal on Tally for the Content Guild for a piece of content, an article, video, whatever that you want to create. You will get paid for that if it is approved by the DAO. And that's pretty much it. After that, you'll get a Contributors Pass NFT. You'll be part of the DAO itself. You'll have voting power and a lot of other perks that have yet to be announced.
Come work with Tally. Get your Contributors Pass. It's good. We got a private Discord of people, who are going to be Contributors Pass holders, and it's an amazing collection of DAO content gigabrains in the Content Guild private Discord. So come hit us up, and we'll work on something together.
Yeah, great way to meet a lot of like-minded people and also get paid for your work. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. All right, let's move on to the final part of the week, or favorite part of the week, the meme of the week. Frisson hasn't seen this. I'm excited for him to see it. I don't know if he's going to laugh or not. Just found Zuck in the metaverse. This is for suspending my Uncle Terry's Facebook account. And it's a guy trying to fight Zuck in the metaverse. I think it's relevant because Zuck was just on Rogan's podcast talking about Meta and low-key talking about how Meta is becoming a DAO.
Wow. That is hilarious. Dude, why do all the images from the metaverse just look so bad?
Yeah,
they just all look so bad. Why do they look so bad?
Yeah, I know he knows they look bad too. So I don't get why. I mean, I guess I get it. Why he keeps Zuck keeps promoting, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook or Meta, whatever you want to call it, is promoting this shitty ass VR world that no one's ever going to use that. I mean, then maybe you'll use it when you get high or drunk with your friends on the weekend, or let's go play VR and fight Zuck in the metaverse. But
yeah, this is we finally found a use case for the ugly ass metaverse of Mark Zuckerberg. It's fighting Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, maybe that's his whole point. But yeah, this is what people think the metaverse is outside. I hate that word too. Outside of the Web3 native people, and I think this is not good. So I try to fight back.
Ethereum is a metaverse, and my pudgy penguin looks dope. So know that.
All right. We'll end on that. All right. This has been DAO Talk episode 15. Wow, 15 episodes, about 4 months in. We will see you next week. As always, peace.
Peace.